Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mac Story.
All right, everyone, we're about to kick off another series here on the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. And I've been pretty excited to get started on this one. I've been waiting a little while to build up the audience, but there's a lot of you out there listening already, and I appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and share some from my best-selling book. It's my favorite book that I've written. Blue Collar Leadership is the title. Leading from the Front Lines is the subtitle. And a lot of times, a lot of people think this book is for the leaders, meaning the formal authority leaders, the team leaders, supervisors, foremen, superintendent, managers, all those folks with the title. This book is for them, but not really. I mean, it really is, but it's not who I wrote it for. It's always confusing to try to explain this. But I wrote this book for the entry-level, frontline, blue-collar workforce. I don't care if they've been there 5 minutes or 5 years. If they're still in an entry-level position, meaning no one reports to them, they're not the boss of anybody, that's who I wrote this book for. But the confusing part is it applies to everybody at every level. The CEO can read it, and if that CEO is humble, they can read this book and get some value out of it and learn to be better. And I always got to say, you don't have to be sick to get better. You just have to have a desire to get better and be willing to pay the price and make the choices that'll actually make you better. And when I say better, I'm talking about relative to character development when we're talking about leadership. So blue collar leadership, leading from the front lines. The reason I say leading from the front lines, because that's where the frontline entry level worker is leading. Because leadership is influence. Everyone has influence. Everyone is a leader. That's why I call this subtitle Leading from the Front Lines. So one thing about this little book, before we start the series, this is the start of the series, but before we dive into it, it's going to be a 30-part series. So I'll just kind of talk unscripted. I'm not going to read the book to you. I may share some quotes and that sort of thing from the different chapters. But I'm just going to give a little insight. It may or may not be even what's in the book, but it relates to what's in the book. And since a lot of it's my stories, it may very well be exactly the same stuff, but I ain't going to read it, and I'm not going to reread it and that sort of thing. I'm just going to talk about it to share with you. Maybe you'll go out and get the audio book or the paperback or the ebook. You can go to bluecollarleaders.com, bluecollarleadership.com. Either one of those sites take you to the same exact site, actually. And then you can get on the Blue Collar Leadership Training Programs menu and go down to Blue Collar Workers. Click on that. You'll find out some information about this book. You can download the first 5 chapters, complete first 5 chapters, and you'll also see underneath those chapters, you'll see the remaining 25 chapters, subtitles, and an opening and closing quote from the chapter, so you can kind of get a feel what the whole book is really about. But I'll be sharing with you, some of what it's about as we go through this series. Also on that website page, you can click on the link there. It's got a 5-minute audio clip, so you can kind of get a sample. You can order the book there. This book is also available in Spanish. However, I don't speak Spanish, so I won't be doing any of this in Spanish. But you can there's a link there if you or your team members need a Spanish version of this book. So if you go to the website, what you'll find out is this book, I like to tell people, finally, it's a book written specifically for those who are on the front lines of any kind of blue-collar industry. And I still say we because I still feel like I'm one of those people still on the front lines. And that's the mindset that'll probably always stay with me, because I'm proud of that. I'm proud of all the first 10 years that I worked on the front lines. And so this book's written specifically for those folks. It's going to help them unleash their potential. And what I want to do, and have done in the book, but I want to do it here on the podcast in every episode, not just in this series, is I want to take the complex and make it simple. And this book, actually, I wish someone would have given me this book 30 years ago when I started my career in 1988 on the front lines of a manufacturing facility. And if you want to hear about that story, my background story, just go to the podcast episodes and go all the way back to the beginning. And I think episode 2, I think there's a 3 or 4, 5-part series there where I actually will tell you, I'm not teaching leadership in that series. I'm just kind of telling you my story, how I started, where I started, my journey, how I got promoted, where I was promoted to, the jobs I did, and that kind of stuff, so you can get to know me a little bit. But on the back cover of this book, I got a cool quote by George Washington Carver. It says, "When you do the common things in life in an uncommon way, you will command the attention of the world." That's what I want you to do, regardless of your position or title. But especially if you're an entry-level frontline worker out there making it happen, probably being overlooked sometimes, maybe too much, underappreciated sometimes, maybe not appreciated enough, and underdeveloped. But hopefully a leader in your organization sent you here, or you heard me speak at your organization, and you've taken the initiative to get on this podcast. If not, share, tell your coworkers about this podcast, because I put all this energy and effort in to help you, your team, your coworkers climb to the next level and beyond. What does that mean? Whatever it means to you. That's what it means. Personally and professionally. You decide, take these nuggets I share and figure out what you're going to go do with them. But on the back cover of this book, I say it, and I will read this piece because it's just what this series is about. It's to help you separate yourself from the crowd quickly by helping you learn how to master the traits that high-impact leaders value most. I'm talking about leaders like Andy Griffith, not leaders like Barney Fife. And I know you know the difference. So this is how to get the Andy Griffith type leaders. If you know that show, if you don't know that show, Google it up. Watch about a 3, 4, 5 minute clip, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And you'll probably get a good laugh in too. But you'll learn how to get noticed by the right people. Not just the leaders, the formal authority leaders like Andy, but the other leaders like Andy who don't have a formal authority title or position, because everyone is a leader. So people of high character will notice you if you start to live these principles in this book. And it'll also help you learn to get promoted for the right reasons, because of who you are and what you know. It'll be about how you do what you do and why you do what you do. You'll learn how to become recognized as a frontline leader worth following. And the cool part about it is you don't need formal authority. You don't need a position for people to start following you. You may or may not have really thought about it and realized it. Because if you learn to apply what's in this book, and I'm going to be giving you highlights and overviews along the way, you'll develop something better than formal authority. And that's moral authority, influence. And if you've listened, I've talked about some of the other episodes. But this book's going to help you learn how to be a better team player, help you learn how and why you should accept more responsibility, whether you get paid for accepting that responsibility or not, because this is what I want you to know. When you accept responsibility, you take responsibility and you perform and get results. While you're doing that, you're getting paid. You may not be getting paid in dollars, you're getting paid in experience. And I'm here to tell you, if you ain't figured it out yet, experience is worth dollars. It's worth dollars in the company you're in. It's worth dollars in any other company you may be in later. It's going to help you learn how to build influence with leaders and your teammates. Remember, leadership is influence. So as you build influence, you're building your leadership. You may or may not ever want to be a boss, but I promise you, you understand this. The more influence you have, the more options you're going to have. The more influence you have, the better your life is going to be. That's what this little book is about. This book is about helping you learn how to lead yourself well, because the hardest person you're ever going to lead is the one listening to this podcast right now. You. It's going to help you learn how to make an impact from exactly where you are. You do the things in this book, you're going to get noticed by the right people. They may or may not be in your same organization. That part doesn't matter. You're going to get noticed by the right people. It could be your boss. It could be coworkers. It could be suppliers that you interact with, customers you interact with. It could be someone you meet in town just because they hear the way you talk. Because people who operate at the level I'm trying to help you get to, they recognize it in other people. You're going to learn how to intentionally become more valuable to the company that you do work at, or any company you work at in the future. See, you don't want to work on becoming more successful. If you think that's the goal, you already got it wrong. Don't focus on becoming more successful, because it might not happen. Focus on becoming more valuable, and you are going to become successful. That's how you make it happen. How do I become more valuable? And I'm telling you, learn to apply what I'm going to share with you and what's in this book. And I hope you don't only listen to this book listen to me talk about it on the podcast. Get on audible.com. If you've never ordered a book on there, get on your smartphone, get on Audible, AUDIBLE.com. You can download this book for free. You can get my other books. If you're already on there, go check this thing out. You're going to learn how to become more successful as an individual. That's what this is all about. So chapter 1, I ain't going to talk too much about this one, because I tell you, if you really want to know what chapter 1's about, go back to the episodes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever that series is. I think it starts, pretty sure it starts with episode 2. Go back at the very beginning, where I'm sharing my story from there to here. What chapter 1 in the book, though, is about, I'll tell you. The background is, the title is I'm One of You. Who we are matters. And I've got a quote there that says, a few start at the top, but most of us start at the bottom. Exactly where I started. And I share in this chapter where I did start, how I started. But the reason I'm saying I'm one of you is because when somebody reads this book, just like right now when I'm talking to you at the beginning of this series, if you're a frontline entry-level blue-collar worker, I want you to know I'm one of you. I've been there. I'm not somebody that does not know what it's like. I want you to know I'm one of you. And the reason is I want to connect with you, and I want to relate with you. I want you to relate with me, so that the stuff that I say later actually means something to you. If I was a white-collar guy, ain't ever done any blue-collar work, wearing a suit and tie, that sort of thing, had never been where you're at, you probably don't want to hear what I got to say. There's a lot of folks are like that you need to hear what they got to say, but you may not know it and you may not want to. But I'm one of you, and that's what chapter 1 is about. It's all just about connecting with you. So when you decide to accept responsibility for your future, you'll be able to define your future. If you're mad at the world or somebody because of something that's not right in your life, you got to get over that. Look in the mirror and say, what's my piece of that? What do I have to do? And I want you to know this, where my heart's at, where I come from. The blue-collar workforce built this country, meaning the United States, the country I live in, and you can and must help save this country. Our country has been sinking down, down, down. And what I'm talking about, I ain't talking about the dollars or the number of people. I'm talking about the character. The character of our country, the character of our world is heading south. It's been heading south for a while. It needs some help. It's up to me. It's up to you. It's up to anybody you're going to share this content with and get them on board. You start helping them get better. We all have to get better. then we got to help our children and our friends and our family and our coworkers get better. That's what this is about. We've got to do it. So as I wrap up this episode of this podcast, one thing I want you to know is I respect you. I may not know you. I may not have ever known you. May not ever know you. But I respect you as a person. I respect what you do. What you do matters. Who you are matters. And you may not have anybody to tell you that they believe in you, but I'm here to tell you I believe in you, and you ain't even close to doing what you're capable of doing. But the sad thing is I can't do it for you. I can help you. I can influence you, but I can't do it for you. So I hope you follow along in this series. And again, it's going to be 30 parts. But I want you to know when I started out, my first job in a manufacturing plant in 1988, I was running just a huge broach. Actually, it was shaving off the sides of big steering knuckles for International Harvester trucks. And it was a raw knuckle, hadn't been machined yet, and it was shaving off the sides and cutting out the throat of this steering knuckle to go on the I-beam axle of a big rig truck. And I'll never forget, man, the first day I was there, it didn't take very long, but by the end of the shift, and it probably took like less than 30 minutes at the start of the shift, so I was like this all day. But when I left, my underwear was soaked with cutting oil. That stuff sprayed all over me. I didn't have an apron. Nobody told me I needed an apron. About 2 weeks into it, somebody was nice enough to say, "Hey, Mac, if you go down to that break room in the back of the plant, you can get a plastic apron for $1 out of the vending machine." So guess what I did? I started making use of plastic aprons. But all my clothes were ruined by that time. So that's how it started. I remember climbing down in that machine. It had a big pit. These big broaches were vertical. They went up and down. And the pit, that oil that's spraying on me, there was a pump and a big reservoir in the bottom that the pump pumped the oil out, and it sprayed on the knuckles as they were being cut, and and it splashed back down below. And the reservoir was like a metal pan that was built up a couple of feet off the floor, and then the whole pit, we called it, was just a big concrete vault that the machine actually sit down in. And these two big broaches went up and down. They were about 8 or 10 feet long each, and they'd come all the way up and then they'd go all the way down in the ground. So whenever the oil stopped pumping onto the parts, we had to raise up this lid, and there was an aluminum ladder that went down in this hole. Nothing's safe about it in 1988. There was nothing safe about this. It was covered in oil, and we had to climb down in there, and it was all hot where the oil was kind of steamy from the metal parts and the broach heads being down in there, being sprayed with that oil. But we had to go in there and put our one foot on the ladder, 1 foot over on that metal reservoir that was a couple feet in there. And we had to take a 5-gallon bucket while I'm like spread out with my feet about 2-3 feet apart, standing 1 foot on the ladder, 1 foot on the reservoir, the tank that held the oil. Then I had to bend way down and take the 5-gallon bucket and scoop the oil off of the floor and then dump it back into the tank. So that took, I don't know, probably 3, 4, 5 minutes, dump all this, I don't know how many gallons it was. I'd guess maybe 100 gallons, 50 gallons of oil from the floor back into the reservoir. Then I climb up, then I run some parts. Hour later, 30 minutes, I don't remember how long it was, but it'd run out again. I had to go climb back down in the pit, get the 5-gallon bucket, straddle it. Hope I don't fall down in there because it's probably knee deep or deeper. And round and around I would go all day. So that's how I started out my blue collar career. And what wasn't fun about that? It was hot, nasty, pretty dangerous. Not a lot of safe things going on back then. But what I want you to know as you listen to this series is you can climb to the next level and beyond, but you got to believe in yourself. And that's actually what we're going to talk about on the next episode. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're going to enjoy the upcoming series. And like I said, it's going to take a while for it to come out. 30 episodes. There's going to be one episode every 3 days. And I'll be talking about just what the book is, what that chapter is about. I ain't going to read it. I ain't going to check it and underline things and talk about it. I know kind of what it's about, but I'm just going to share some stuff. But if you really want to dive into it where you can take notes, digest it, get the audio book, go to my website, order it, get on Amazon and order it. Again, the title is Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines. And talk to you next time. Have a great day.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.